Greetings, this is Tyrone, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Joined today by Leon Costello. Leon is the Director of Athletics at Montana State University. Greetings, Leon. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Ty. Great to be here today.
You are finishing your 10th year there at Montana State, and you talk about leading the athletics department, right? Athletics, the purpose of an athletics department is to enhance the academic mission of the university. And the way to do it is by having a good athletics department, right? And graduating student athletes. And 10 years, you've seen a lot of success there. And before we talk about that success, I want to talk about leadership on campus. You had a president that was there for 15 something years, right? Which is kind of new. Now presidents are 5 to 6 years, 10 years, but president that was there for 15 something years, hired you in, gave you the reins to the department. You've been successful there. Now you have a new president. Talk to me about the old president and the support for college athletics and the involvement of the president in college athletics, and then kind of onboarding with a new president.
Yeah, I was fortunate to come into a place with a president that truly understood the value that athletics can bring to a campus community. And we all know that by a campus community, then it spreads to your local community throughout your state and throughout your entire alumni base. But she really understood that here, athletics was and is the front porch of this university. And it might be the first way that somebody learns about Montana State. It might be the only way that somebody learns about Montana State University. And, she really supported us in a way that we could go out and achieve championships. She supported us financially. She supported us on campus with her leadership team. And really making athletics stand on its own, and really highlighting athletics and all of its successes. And she was an amazing person to work for. She let us do our thing, and when we needed her, she was right there, standing right beside us. She was our biggest cheerleader. She was our biggest supporter. And our student athletes really knew that we were supported from a campus level because of her involvement. And, when she announced her retirement, the good thing for us was she gave us a year runway. And so we were able to really focus in on, one, having her leave the right way, but two, then really setting things up for, the next incoming president to come to campus. And, I couldn't be more excited about that transition because it went from somebody that truly understood athletics. Now we have a president here that was a student athlete. And having a president that was a student athlete, he was a runner at Brown, and he finished his career at Colorado. He understands what being a student athlete means. He understands what they need to be successful. That is, one, in competition, but two, also outside of competition. What are those things that you need to feel supported as a student athlete and achieve at the highest level? He gets it because he was one of them. And so for me, the transition couldn't have been any better. And, I'll go back a step to say I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to be on the search advisory committee. And so I was able to give input on the candidates, on who I felt would be, the right fit, one, for Montana State University, but also the right fit for Montana State athletics. And one that could take, since he's a runner, we use the analogy, one that could take the baton and just kind of keep on running with the success that we were having. And so I'm very fortunate to be involved in that entire process. And I'm really fortunate to be involved with two presidents that truly value athletics and what we bring to the table.
Yeah, that's important. So he was a runner at Brown and transferred to Colorado?
Yes. Yep.
Also, he understands the transfer.
And he understands the transfer. Yeah, it was prior to the transfer portal, but yeah, he gets all of that for sure.
Yeah, super interesting. Tell us about being on that committee. Do they say, okay, Leon, what do you think we need in a president? Or tell me how that whole process works, your input, specifically your perspective.
I think the first thing that what I liked about being on that committee were there were some people that were sitting around the room that I didn't know. There were about 20 to 25 people. We weren't the actual, search committee. We were kind of an advisory committee that our commissioner of higher education put together. And what I found out was it wasn't just, from the presidential perspective. It was everybody on campus really felt the same way about athletics. And when we were going through some of these resumes and some of these, initial Zoom interviews, I didn't even have to bring athletics up because people around the table were bringing athletics up. It was either, well, this person didn't talk enough about athletics, or this person really understands athletics. And to me, being an athletic director on campus, that made me feel really good about where we are positioned on campus, and what the campus community felt about our athletic department. And so, for one, it had really nothing to do with, the current president. It really formed an opinion for me of how athletics is viewed on this campus. And then the second part of it was I was able to really insert my input on the things that were going on, currently within athletics, and how these people would fit, um, and kind of continuing to take us forward, given all the challenges that we see nowadays. And, um, felt valued in the process. All of them asked questions about athletics. Again, going back to that front porch, it may not be, the thing that presidents want to deal with all the time, but if you don't understand what's going on, it can catch you, right? I mean, there's so much publicity around athletics. If you don't have a little bit of experience with it and understand what's going on, I can attest that it can be a huge mountain to climb. So really getting somebody in that really understood what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and really seeing where we want to take our department was important. And I was just lucky enough that I was able to provide my input during that process.
I think that's excellent. One more question on this line of thinking. Tell me about the transition process of communicating with the president, right? Communicating with the former president and how she liked to communicate, and now communicating with this president and his style.
Yeah, I think from day one, I've always taken the approach with, whoever is my supervisor, my boss, if you will. Um, I've always taken the approach of no surprises, right? And more information is probably better than less information. And I've always let that person tell me, like, hey, really don't need to know about that, or I want to, know more about this topic. But for me, I never want any information to reach my bosses, in this case, the president, without them hearing it from me first.
Okay.
One, just because I can provide some context around it. And two, it can kind of diffuse some things as well, where they might think it's a big deal, but maybe hearing from me, it's just like, it's really not that big of a deal. Here's how we're dealing with this, and this is kind of really what's going on. And so I've always taken the approach of over communicating, and never letting my president be surprised with information that they probably should hear from me first. And I think that's really, led us on a great path of how we communicate with each other. I've always had regular one-on-one meetings, monthly meetings with the president. Obviously, both of them have been very courteous to say, hey, if there are things that pop up in between, we certainly can sit down. They both will take phone calls. We text back and forth with certain things. They're both very engaged and very responsive when we need something. But we always have a set time where we can sit down, and really that's where we talk about where we're taking the department, what goals we have, maybe some bigger ticket items that we're working on. But if things pop up, both been very good about simple text messages or phone calls to get some things taken care of.
Yeah, right. That's excellent. Good information. More information is better than not enough, right?
Without a doubt.
Uh, so I've been around football for a long time. Of course, working with at the Football Coaches Association, and Craig Bowl runs that organization now. Of course, he's a Great Plains guy, and I what I'm always trying to understand is, like, are there just a ton of athletes up in the Great, like, what is the thing here, right? And we'll talk about national championship in football, but give me some, because you've been in that just area for a long time too.
Yeah.
So give me some insight on that up there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And one, I grew up in Iowa, right? And I started my career at Northern Iowa, and South Dakota, and then here in Montana. And the one thing that's been the same about the areas, that I've been in that have been very successful on the football field is really they're kind of more rural states, smaller communities. And I think they're states where student athletes play multiple sports. If you look at our roster, we have a lot of guys on our football team that played multiple sports here in the state of Montana. They wrestled, they ran track, they played basketball, they played baseball. Because they grew up in these smaller communities, if they didn't play, some of these smaller communities may not be able to field those types of teams. And so they were involved in everything. And, I think more and more today you're seeing kids kind of go to one sport. And I think we're having success in that our student athletes have played everything. They're considered more athletes and basically more flexible to be put on a football field at different positions, maybe than what they even played in high school. I mean, we have a lot of quarterbacks or kids that were quarterbacks in high school because they were the best athletes in their school. But now our coaches are able to move them to a position where they feel like they can certainly help us the most. I mean, we've had quarterbacks turn into linebackers. We've had linebackers turn into quarterbacks. I mean, being an athlete, is very beneficial to a coaching staff to provide some flexibility on where they can put you on the football field. And so I truly believe it's playing multi sports, growing up, being part of different teams. And I know our coaches look at one, athletes, and two, were they part of winning cultures, right? And so they really recruit student athletes that were part of programs that won, because then they know how to win. And so having that flexibility, having that championship mindset has really served us well at all three stops that I've been at.
Yeah, that's excellent. Tell me about that. You mentioned culture. We're going on finishing our 10th year there up in Montana State, and talk to me about some of the things you put in place early that you see are bearing fruit now as you go into your 10th year.
Yeah, when I got here, it was a great program. I noticed right away there was no strategic plan, right? So we all go back. You all need to plan for success, and that was one of the first things that we did. But I think most important, we were really focused on building out our support staff to support our student athletes in a championship way. And over the course of 10 years, we've added about 25 positions, new positions to the department. And most of those, I'd say 95% of those, are focused strictly on student athlete support. So strength and conditioning, academic services, mental health clinicians, doctors and team physicians, uh, athletic trainers, all of the people in the areas that are going to support these student athletes on and off the field to make them the best that they can be. And not only did we pour some resources into personnel, we also poured resources into their spaces. So we made their spaces better and more conducive, to developing these student athletes. And that was kind of our foundation is, we need more one-on-one time with these student athletes, and adding personnel really allowed us to take a focused approach to that. And then from there, it was not being afraid to talk about what our goals were, and making sure the expectations and the goals were aligned with everybody we were talking about, and not being afraid. And, from a student athlete perspective, I really wanted them to see us out. I wanted them to see how we supported them. From a coaching perspective, I want them to know how we're going to support them so that they can build their program around that, and know what they're going to get from me as the director, but also all of our support staff. They know what they're going to get, and they know how they can run their program. And I want staff that they don't look at this as a job, right? I want staff that really understands the passion that we have for developing student athletes. And because if it's a job, the nights and weekends are going to get you every time. But if you have a passion for truly developing student athletes, the nights and weekends just come with it. It's more of a lifestyle, that we live. And a lot of times we hire former student athletes just because they've been in that world and they understand it, and they want to give back, and they want to continue to help develop student athletes and the student athletes that we have. And then we've talked about it. It's really that alignment with the university and understanding where we are, and we all have that championship mindset. And it's just making sure we're all on the same page. We're all striving to achieve the same goals, and our expectations are never going to change. If we're going to have a sport, we're going to support it at a championship level so it can go out and compete for championships.
Right. Yeah. So when you had to develop a strategic plan that included added personnel. You also got to say, okay, so that means we got to bring in this much more money because that's that many more salaries and that many more benefits and all that. Tell me about those conversations and then how you made that happen. Right.
Yeah. One, it's again, it's alignment with the university,
Yeah.
because a lot of times when you're adding positions, you know, one, you can do it on new revenue, but also, hopefully, you're in lockstep with the university and what we're trying to achieve. And so we've been able to do really both things. It's been from support directly from the university, but it's also been driven from the revenue that we've been able to generate. And we've been fortunate here the last 10 years. Our operating has budget has increased by about 70%. And we generate 60% of our operating budget every single year. And so a lot of what we do every year is based on our success and our ability to sell tickets, to sell sponsorships, to have donors believing in us. We've really got to kind of mind our P's and Q's because, a lot of what we strive for has to be generated by us. And we've been, I don't want to say lucky, but we've been fortunate to have a lot of success where, winning football games, going to NCAA tournaments and men's and women's basketball, having success across the board, really in all of our sports, has allowed us to sell more tickets and to increase our sponsorship revenue and to increase our donors who are giving back to the programs. And, that's allowed us to invest more, one, into retaining our coaches, but also retaining our student athletes now and putting more things in place to really develop them at a high level. And so I really believe that we're seeing more success now because of, one, the planning that we went through, the planning process we went through at the beginning, and also being ready to have that success and put the resources back in and reinvest into our processes and our people that we have, to hit our goals, and ultimately that's win championships.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. Are you, in terms of like securing the increasing the budget, increasing revenue, is that your job? Do you have like a whole university development office, or are you the person? Do you have like? Tell me how that structure is in terms of.
Yeah, well, it's a great question because it's grown. Like everything else, and as our department is growing, that has grown. I would say when we first got here 10 years ago, it was on myself and a couple of people.
Mhm.
But as we have continued to grow, our Learfield presence has grown. They've added more people, to their staff. Our ticketing presence has grown, and how we sell tickets has grown. Our development staff definitely has grown, and I think the university, our foundation, they really see the advantage of talking about athletics. And you're seeing more now that development happens across the university, and you're seeing more of that happen at our events, not just for athletics, but you're seeing that happen for the College of Business or the College of Engineering. They're bringing people and entertaining them at our events,
Mhm.
and it's helping the entire university. And so I think success breeds success. And as we've been able to grow, I think the services around us have been able to grow too. And I think you and I have talked a little bit about this in the past, but once COVID hit here in Montana, we saw this influx of people. What that's really allowed us to do is really extend our hand to people that maybe didn't know anything about Montana State, and maybe this was their place, a second home, where they bought a house and they wanted to come and be here for a little bit of time throughout the year. But we've really made an intentional effort to reach those people that are coming here, even if it's a short period of time throughout the year. And we all know that they probably graduated from somewhere else. We wanted to be their second home. We wanted to be their second team. And that's really started to pay dividends for us as they're spending more time in the state of Montana. They're always looking for something to do and somebody to root for, and we're like, why not be a Bobcat? And we've hit a few home runs with that, and we're striving to do more with that as well.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Just to see the growth. Your coach came on, I believe, in 2021. Football coach.
He actually got here during COVID. Yep, yep.
During COVID, right? And so you've seen it. Well, Montana State has always been good, but in terms of playing for championships and actually winning a championship, right? You've seen that in the last 5 to 6 years. Tell me about that in terms of bringing in the coach and I guess ties to some of the things you said, putting the resources around the football coach to make sure you're successful, and then finally getting a championship here this year.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it's kind of funny. You at the beginning of this, you mentioned Coach Bull because obviously Coach Vegan coached with Coach Bull for a long time and coached at North Dakota State and then obviously at Wyoming, where we hired him from. And we were having success. When that transition happened, our head coach went to Texas to take a position coaching job there. And what I really wanted is obviously NDSU was having a ton of success. I was at South Dakota State as well, and so got to see them up close and personal, and really like the way they built their program. And so having somebody that was part of that was a player there that had won championships there as a coach, and then went on in this area to recruit the level of student athletes that we needed at the FBS level. He was able to bring all of that here to Montana State. And so when I looked at Brent, he really checked every box. One, he had a great family, a wife that was an athlete that is a great supporter of his, coming from a great lineage of coaches and success. We really were looking for somebody to take what we had and really put us over the top. And that started from day one. And we talked a lot about how he evaluates recruits, and how he goes through the recruiting process, where his kind of recruiting marks were. And it's kind of everything that he said we're seeing come to fruition live and in person. And he still relies heavily on high school kids and developing high school prospects and student athletes. Obviously, he dabbles in the portal a little bit as well, but it's more kind of picking and choosing kind of the needs out of the portal rather than having the entire team come from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that that's really helped us win a championship because as some of our student athletes have gone on and to what they call greener pastures through the transfer portal, we've been able to keep a lot of the student athletes here through our development process. And those are the student athletes that have helped us kind of get over the hump and win a championship. And a lot of that is a testament to Coach Vegan and his leadership style, but it's also a testament to the coaches that he recruits to develop these student athletes. And that all leads to the student athletes as well. And they're just they call them the right cats, right? The right cats that fit this situation at the right time. And we get a lot of our student athletes, kind of the backbone is from the state of Montana. 47 of our student athletes are from the state of Montana.
Okay.
And then out of the 105, and then the rest come from, a lot of the surrounding states. But we have a recruiting presence really everywhere in the West. And with Coach coming from North Dakota, being a native of North Dakota, we've got more presence now kind of closing in on the Mississippi River there as well. So we've really been able to expand our recruiting base. Yeah, really fortunate to have Brent leading the program. I couldn't be more excited. I think he's the best coach in the country. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore. He's won a championship with us and he's been looked at multiple times, but I think we have really something special here, and it all starts at the top with him.
Tell me how that feels. And I guess it's probably November through about February when it's like, I'm getting these calls. What are you calling me for? Or like, tell me about that foundational kind of
Do
situation.
you
The
do you mean
silly
from
season.
him?
Well, just yeah, we at AFCA we called it the silly season, right? Guys are
Yeah.
done hired all over the place, fired all over the place, and just being the AD with a coach that's successful and finally getting a championship and playing for championships in the past, and calls are coming. He's getting calls. Tell me about that aspect of just bracing yourself for things that are coming and then having a conversation and talking to the president. We got to make sure we have what we need so he's happy, like all those things.
Yeah. You're right. Definitely silly season. But I think it goes back to something that we talked about earlier, and it's communication, right? And never being surprised. And that process that I use with the president and my boss is the same process I want coaches to use with me, right? I don't want surprises. I want to be able to talk through all of these situations. And we've been if you call it fortunate, we've been fortunate enough to where we've had success across the board where all of our coaches have been contacted, right? And
Right.
we've also been very fortunate where a lot of them have stayed, and it's because of the situation that they have here. But it's also because I know what's coming. And if if a coach gets contacted, I'm probably the first one they're calling to say, "Hey, look, this is what's going on. I want you to be aware." And that gives me time to put some things together if that's needed, whether it's, going to the president or going to donors to say, "Hey, look, we really need to do this if we feel like we're going to be in the ballpark to keep a coach." But sometimes it doesn't even take that. It's just more of a conversation of again, aligning yourself, with that person, and making sure that what they expect to have in a program, that we're able to deliver on those expectations. And it really comes through constant communication. And I feel very comfortable with the relationships I have with the coaches. I feel comfortable with the past conversations we've had about those situations,
Mhm.
that I know they're going to let me know when things happen. And at some point, I agree, some of these coaches they're going to move on because they feel like they need to professionally, or
Yeah.
they feel it's a greener pasture, and that's going to happen. But I want them to do that because we've had success here, not because I've had to make a decision to say, "Hey, you know what? It's not working out here." To me, that's the best case situation, and you can't be scared of it. You can't be scared of success, because if that happens, that coach has put us in a much better position than when probably they took the job, and we probably get to attract a better quality of coach than we would have if we had to go another route and make a different decision. And so I've kind of learned not to be afraid of those situations, but I've also learned, hey, let's really truly understand what you need and what you're looking for in the program, and let's see if we can put that together and meet our goals. And sometimes it's just, hey, they want to go on and go to a bigger place and really try that, and that's okay, and nothing to be scared of there. But if you want to win championships, then let's really get to work and figure out what you need to continue to down that path and really continue to win championships.
Right. And you've done it. Have you guys gotten your championship rings yet?
So they're ordered. They're hopeful that we will get them by spring ball, and they can hand them out to the student athletes during spring ball. The design is amazing. It's
Yeah.
we combine the conference championship with the national championship, so it's a little bit bigger and gaudier than I've seen in the past, but that's okay.
I don't. You go to the conferences, NACDA. I always have my one bowl ring for Michigan State because I'm proud of it, right? But
Yep.
I don't see ADs walking around with the big championship rings on there. You got Is that not a thing that ADs don't do? I would.
Probably not. This one I probably won't wear. It's more for me for display. And I you know I the one thing about championship rings, and we're competitive as anybody, right? And we want our teams to win, but at the end of the day, we truly want to celebrate with our student athletes. And I have a kind of a shadow box with all the conference championship and the championship rings that I've collected. And it's really fun to take a look at some of that, and take a deep breath and take a look back, and look at the success that you've hopefully had an impact on.
Right.
And that's truly what this job is about, is helping student athletes develop, putting them in a position to win championship, to really achieve their goals. And if you have a little bit of impact on their lives during that time, that's what it's all about. And getting to be able to celebrate championships with them because of their accomplishments really is the fun part of the job.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think that I would at one meeting at NACDA, I would probably have one of the rings on that you want. Do you give it to the current president and possibly just retired president? Do you give them a ring too, or
So this year, yeah, we'll order two of them, and we'll give one to the retired president, and we'll give one to the new president for sure. And how about this, Ty? If it all works out and the timeline works and we get it by spring ball, I will bring the ring to NACDA, and I will look you up, and I'll wear it for you.
yeah, where for me? Excellent,
All right.
excellent. I'll ask one final question, then we can wrap. I want to talk about sport and leadership. Right? You just talked about the current president is a former athlete, right? And as we know, right, athletics, you participate, it can lead to a bunch of different things. Steph Garcia, she's a former professional runner. She ran a steeplechase, and you look at the things that talk about women, and a lot of women who are in leadership positions were some form of athlete at some point in their life, right? And I think that for men, for everybody, right, just athletics is that kind of thing. Talk to me about what you see now in college athletics. Of course, what we see is on the big scale, right? Big schools, football and basketball, and a lot of transferring in 5 different schools. Are you graduating? But tell me what you see in general from your perspective in terms of sports leadership, uh, athletes going out into the world, money that's being talked about, everything. What is your perspective on a lot of this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a depending on who you talk to and what the topic is, there could be a negative, connotation on what is going on right now in the world of sports, but really college athletics. When you're talking about transfer portal and rev share and NIL and all of those things. But I think from my perspective and where I am at, it's allowed us to really engage more deeply with our student athletes. It's allowed us to really focus in on what are the things that are important to them, what are the things that they need in their experience that will keep them here. Our coaches do a really good job of talking to them and then bringing us in so we can explain to them, hey, this is what you're going to get out of your experience. These are some of the new things that we are working on. you know, we've developed and learned our little formulas that if we have a student athlete that is being recruited by another institution or is being talked to, obviously that's not supposed to happen, right? They're supposed to be in the portal first.
Right.
But a lot of times the experience that they're having at MSU is valuable to them. And I think that's very important because we can, not everybody, but 9 times out of 10, we can keep a student athlete for a fraction of the cost because of the experience that they're having here. They feel wanted, they feel engaged with, they feel like they can accomplish their goals here. They feel supported by their coaches and the administration. And if they can accomplish their goals, they don't need to go somewhere else to do that. And they don't need a big check. When we have success, student athletes as well as coaches are going to be looked at. And for me, I'm seeing a lot in our student athletes in that they want to know that they can achieve their goals while they're at Montana State. And it's allowed us to really engage with them from a coaching perspective and from an athletic department and a support staff perspective to really understand what they're looking for. Yes, offers might come that have higher dollar figures than what we can offer. But if the experience is good enough, their academic experience, their development experience, they feel like they can accomplish all of the goals that they have for themselves. We truly feel like we can keep student athletes at a fraction of the cost of maybe what they could go and potentially earn. And we talk a lot about, not being a snapshot now of the dollars you can earn, but truly what are you going to earn now and get now that you can earn more down the road by getting your degree from here, by finishing your schooling here, by being able to play with your friends that you've developed for 2, 3, and 4 years and truly hitting your goals and winning championships. And a lot of times, student athletes put, a renewed sense of hope in me. And that's really what they're looking for. 9 times out of 10, that's what they want to see. They want to be supported in a championship level. They want to know that they can achieve their goals where they're at. And they want to set themselves up for the rest of their life because they know that this is only going to last for a short period of time and the rest of their life is really important as well. And definitely we lose some and that's okay. But we really are able to hang on to a lot of our student athletes because of the experience that they're having at Montana State. And we take that into account in every decision that we make. Every dollar that we spend goes into making their experience the best it can possibly be here at MSU.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I do wonder if, you got these schools, you got these athletes getting paid a whole lot of money, right? 'Cause, salaries bigger than even some of the athletic directors make kind of situation. So I wonder if that philosophy, and I know many of these ADs probably think the same way you do, right? If we create this great environment, people want to stay. And what I've always wondered, and I was thinking this was back when I used to work for Coach Taff at the AFCA. It's like we can try to create the best possible environment and the best possible education, the best possible people to feel like they have community and they're going to go off and have a great life. But like when that dollar sign is so high, it's hard to trump that. And I just wonder how athletic directors feel about that. It's like to me, it's kind of a problem a little bit. But I understand the value of name, image, and getting paid because I'm great kind of situation. So I'm like on the fence being a former athlete, right?
Yeah, and I truly believe that, student athletes, receiving more these days is definitely a good thing. I'm in that ballpark, but I think that just comes with conversations. Every student athlete is at a different point in their life. Their upbringing is different than everybody else. Everybody has their own situation, and my hope is that they make those decisions based on their own personal reasons. And never going to fault anybody for looking at what they had here and thanking us and going on and trying, another opportunity. But I also hope they at least give us a chance. And I truly feel that, all of our student athletes really give us a chance. And hey, at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision that they feel at the time is in the best interest of them at that time.
Right.
All we can do is kind of just explain to them, hey, this is how we see it. And if it doesn't match, it doesn't fit, that's truly okay. We're going to wish them well and thank them for all of the great things that they've done here, and we're going to cheer for them, when they go on and do some great things. But I truly hope that it's an opportunity for us to continue a deeper engagement with our student athletes. It allows us to evolve as an athletic department on what we are doing and the services that we are providing our student athletes. And like I said before, I think a vast majority of them really enjoy the experience they get here, and they feel like they can accomplish their dreams and their goals, right here at MSU.
Yeah, I want to ask. We wish you the best and good luck wherever you go. But will you play for a championship? There is the question.
Exactly right. We have a goal here where I want all of our student athletes to compete for a national championship at least one time in their career here, and that means that you pretty much you've won a conference championship and you've qualified for an NCAA championship. Now we have higher expectations for some of our programs,
Mhm.
but we truly want all of our student athletes to experience that championship level experience. And everybody loves hanging banners. Everybody loves jewelry that we've talked about, right? We want all of our student athletes to get to experience that at least one time in their career here at MSU.
Right, which is an excellent experience. Trust me, I never played for a conference or a national, but the bowl game, right,
Oh yeah.
which I absolutely love. So yeah, Leon, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. That was Leon Costello. He's the director of athletics at Montana State University. And of course, I am Ty Brown with one question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.